Another episode of Rootstrap Radio. You have been writing in about biohacking. As I don't know if I actually do write about this on my LinkedIn. Just my challenges with sleep, insomnia, my obsession with good sleep and biohacking over the years, which has led me to this really cool company and founder, which we are going to be chopping it up today about just sleep science and tech and all the sort of really cool innovations in that world. So really excited to have Alexandra Zatarain on my show today. She is the co-founder and CMO of 8, a sleep innovation company revolutionizing how people sleep through smarter bedrooms products. She's originally from Tijuana. She went to school in Monterrey, Mexico, and she currently lives and works in New York City. She was named 30 under 30 in Forbes in 2017, which is actually how we discovered her, and she's making a big splash in this space. So we're excited to have her on. And Alex, thanks so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you.
So I got to say, do you still have family in Tijuana?
I do, yes. My mom and my brother still live there, and my sister lives in LA, so.
Very cool. Where does she live?
She's out in Monrovia and works right here in West Hollywood, so
nice.
Long commute.
Where do you sleep better, Tijuana or New York?
It's hard. I obviously sleep better when I'm on my pod, which is the product that we have for 8 Sleep. I see a huge difference, but one of the challenges of New York is it's very noisy.
Yes, it is.
So I do notice that I have much deeper sleep when I'm not in New York City. So if I'm out like upstate New York in the Hamptons or in Tijuana, it's just like these places are so quiet.
Yeah.
Even out here in LA for a few days, it's just much quieter.
So back home, you're getting more REM sleep?
Yeah, it's like more REM or deep sleep because, it almost feels like my brain is just able to disconnect.
Totally. And do you get 8 hours?
I do. I
Really?
do.
Wow, I'm so
I'm
jealous.
very sleep fit.
And how did this come about? Where did how does someone get into the mattress business?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're a health and wellness company focused on sleep fitness. So we just happen to sell our technology embedded in a mattress.
Yep.
But the way we started, we didn't really set out to build a mattress or a bed or anything like that. It was all out of a personal problem. So Mateo, who is my husband, one of my co-founders, and we have another partner who's our CTO, he had his own struggles with sleep. He's been an entrepreneur multiple times. He was stressed. He was a lawyer before that. And so, usual lifestyle that you're probably very familiar with. Yep. And with his own struggles, what he noticed is that there were a few things kind of lacking in the space. One was he didn't have the proper information to make any decisions. Any of the products that, this was maybe 7 years ago, were in the market to track your health were not designed with sleep in mind. So like a Fitbit or a Jawbone, Apple Watch wasn't even existing back then. You had to wear them at night. You had to charge them. They were not really accurate. Like there's just all these issues. And so without the information, he couldn't make any decisions. So that was the first point. And then the second one is that when you did have the information, there was no product that was actually taking that data and using it to improve sleep. And that's exactly what we do, is our technology gives you all the information about how you're sleeping, but then it's also in real time using that information to create the perfect environment for sleep.
I love that. So the challenge I have, and maybe this is a problem for Mateo, I'm sure for a lot of your customers, is, I don't even wear my Oura ring anymore because it gives me anxiety.
Oh, wow.
So if I know I've got the ring on, I am already wondering how I'm going to score. The type A entrepreneur, high-performing type. I got to do Excel and everything. I got to get amazing sleep. I got to do whatever. So I'm like, okay, I need to have a good sleep score tomorrow. It's giving me information. It's not really prescribing any solutions. It's and I love Oura. I
it's
think
a great product.
Their tech, the design, the product, the whole team is phenomenal. But they're giving pretty boilerplate information. What happens if you go below, sleep score 70 threshold? That's not helping me at all. It's not designed according to me. And there's so much information and there's so many different hacks, and it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah. There's so many articles now that talk about this, like orthosomnia, right? And people getting anxious about when they have their sleep data, how they're going to perform, exactly what you're describing. I think there's a few conversations to be had around that. One is the fact that the data becomes really powerful in the long term. So if you are wearing your Aura ring every night, or like what we do, which is you don't even have to wear it. Yeah, you can use your Aura during the day,
Yep.
put it on your nightstand, and then sleep on the pod every night. You're building this. It's almost like your clinical records, right? But you're doing it every single night. For 8 hours of your night, we're tracking your sleep, but also your heart rate, your respiratory rate. You start seeing patterns that we really believe it's like we're only getting started into the potential of what this health data is going to be able to tell you about yourself. You're going to see yourself aging, how your stress levels change. You can see pregnancies. There's just a lot of these stories kind of starting to come out. So we see a lot of value in that. And it excites us to think that 10 years from now, I can look back and see my data from 8 Sleep and just look at those patterns and find something that may be changing. And we start getting into the kind of predictive, health, but also preventive health measures, which will be really valuable. What these products can do now in order to avoid creating the anxiety, I think is to have very positive conversations and like approach it in a way that it's not condescending. Most of the conversations in media right now around sleep are around the negative aspects or the illnesses, insomnia, sleep deprivation, sleep apnea, but no one is talking about sleep from the perspective of something positive.
Right.
And that's something that we do a lot from the brand at 8 Sleep, which is the part of the company that I'm in charge of, is we talk about sleep fitness. And the reason why we came up with this concept is exactly so that we give people the language to talk about sleep in that positive way. And so instead of maybe when you go to bed, think about, what score am I going to have? Am I going to make it? You can say, I'm prioritizing my sleep fitness. I feel sleep fit. That sort of just change in mindset we think is very valuable.
So I have a sleep coach, of course.
Oh, really?
And I do cognitive behavioral therapy. And what you're describing is the positive sleep associations to the bed.
Yeah.
And when you're constantly reading biohacking books and all the information, Benjamin Greenfield writes about, he's also a triathlete, and Dave Asprey, really great information, but it's always from the standpoint of negative. And I was like in week 2 with the sleep coach that I have, and he's like, so the part of it is, sleep hygiene, sleep fitness, negative sleep thoughts, and then turning into positive sleep thoughts. It's all about making your bed something that you're excited and happy to go to versus like, I'm scared of this fucking place because I'm going to sleep bad. It's going to screw up my day. So then that sort of vicious cycle starts. And the big thing is he taught me that it's called stimulus control. When you haven't fallen asleep for 20 or 30 minutes, you have to get out of your bed.
Yes.
Go into another room. You could watch TV with blue light blocking glasses, whatever, but get out of your bed. So I was doing that and I was reading and I was not sleeping well. He's like, well, what are you reading? And I'm like, I'm reading about insomnia. And he's like, stop doing that. Like, not a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll stop.
It's really hard, and I'm fortunate. I'm a good sleeper. I've learned much more about sleep with 8 Sleep, but I see it with Matteo. So he had his problems to sleep. He's been through a journey, and exactly what you're describing, a lot of things that he discovered by consulting with. Now we have a scientific advisory board, and these were like the first kind of doctors that are, the best minds in the sleep space that he started having conversations with. And it is so much more. There's 2 things that technology can do for us in that space. One is everything around kind of the psychology around sleep. So what you're describing with like CBTI, like that is something we cannot forget. Like we need to treat it, and data can help you and can inform a lot of these practitioners to be able to guide you into what are the things that you can change. You probably experience it with your coach where you need to like journal, right? You can do that with data. But then on the other side, something that we found to be very successful for what we do with 8 Sleep is to use technology to create the proper environment. A lot of times we don't notice that the room temperature is not good, the bed temperature is not good, which is the primary thing that we deal with. There may be noise in your room, there may be light coming from somewhere. How can technology tackle all of those things? Eventually, I'm talking oxygen levels, so many things, humidity, that technology could control. And you don't notice that these things are actually getting in the way of sleep, like big time. And that may be keeping you up much more than your mind. It just happens that once you're awake, then your mind starts going.
Absolutely.
So if you can create that Zen environment, it's almost like, that's what we call our product, the pod, where it's almost like eventually it may be a capsule that you get into and it just like fully restores you.
And even, beyond that, I struggled with autoimmune health related issues, which I think were sort of the catalyst for some of these issues. And I'm still, I'm much better, physically with my health, but there are sort of residual issues that I'm working through. So a lot of people have adrenal functions, parasites, all these things that are like, we don't even know where to get that information, because what's likely going to happen is if you go to a GP or, maybe not so much a functional medicine doctors, they're just going to write you a script.
Yeah.
I got to the point where you can give me an Ambien, it's not going to work. Yeah. So I had to go and, pursue something natural. And I don't do anything. I'm completely natural now. Sometimes, magnesium, like it's something that you have to learn how to sort of fix yourself, or, it's going to.
There's another thing that's very interesting to me when you talk about like biohacking, and Matteo talks about this a lot because he's one of exactly these people, and he reads all these things.
He's probably a dolphin chronotype. Have you read that book?
No.
We'll talk about that.
But one of the things he says is that he noticed that he was trying to optimize everything in his life. And so it's basically like you start following almost like these recipes. Like you need to be meditating, reading, working hard, exercising, eating healthy, taking the supplements, or like all these things, right? Sometimes you kind of need to let some things go and just prioritize sleep.
Yep.
And so he goes into these weeks that he's a pretty good sleeper. He sleeps 8 and 9 hours. I mean, we go to bed together. We wake up together. That's really helpful when you share a bed. But he goes into these weeks when he notices that he's kind of getting off path and maybe he's trying to do too much. He does a sleep stretch. So he says, okay, instead of waking up and trying to work out and trying to do it all in a day when maybe I don't have the time, I'm putting too much pressure on myself. I'm just going to prioritize sleep 30 minutes more every night for a week. And it just recovers him so much more than trying to do all the other stuff. Because at the end of the day, if you're not sleeping well, nothing else matters.
Exactly.
You may be meditating perfectly or doing yoga every day, but like it's not, your body needs sleep.
I think I know the answer to this, but where did the name and the inspiration come from for...
So it's the 8 hours of sleep that you should be getting. We play with it a lot because it's actually another thing that we know from reading a lot of the research. The way that we have come to know everything about sleep so far has been studied on few humans at a time, right? And so the fact that we think that we have to sleep 8 hours every night, it's just been, a result of science, which is for sure, the way that we've been able to do science so far in sleep. But we think like in the future, people may be able to sleep less than 8 hours and get the same recovery that they're getting now. So it's a bit of a play. I think we're helping you find your 8.
It could be the goal, because is 8 hours a myth? That's
exactly. That's what we believe, because there's not enough evidence to prove that because of the way that sleep has, the way we've been able to study it so far.
To me, the REM, the deep sleep, the quality is much more important than the quantity.
It is. What we know so far in the science is that only 1% of the world's population can thrive on less than 6 hours of sleep. So there is kind of a limit right now. You shouldn't be that you're really going into an area of sleep deprivation that's pretty bad for you and your longevity and your brain cells and all of that. But it's true. Some people may need 7, some people may need 9.5. Like it's not like 8 for everyone precisely.
And oversleeping isn't so good either.
It's just as bad, exactly.
So let's talk about the pod. It's temperature controlled, so both sides you can control.
Yeah.
I love that already, because the chili pad is cool. You got the box, which is fine, but then the box has different mattress pads, and girl I was dating at the time, she likes it more on the warmer side. I like it on the cooler. So then you got to get the different pads. I don't know. I think this type of product makes a lot more sense. So were you the first to be developing this, or did you learn from some other products in the market and iterate?
I mean, chili pad was obviously out there, and what they've been doing is pretty popular among certain circles for sure. I think there's a few things that are very different from how we're doing. One, we're the first bed to do what we're doing. There was no other better mattress in the market doing it. Second is that we're leveraging data to do temperature regulation. So it's fully automated. You go to bed, the bed's ready for you. So it starts getting ready, heating up, cooling, whatever, to whatever temperature you've selected before your bedtime. It's ready when you get in. It changes temperature throughout the night based on your biometrics when you fall asleep, when you get into the middle of the night, and when you wake up and you get out of bed, it's going to turn off. So it's really sensing and responding to your own body. And that happens for each side of the bed, or if you sleep alone, for yourself in the whole bed.
And this is all recorded on an app? or?
And that's all recorded in an app. So then you can control the temperature in the app. You see all your sleep metrics in the app. You get the coaching, the suggestions. And over time, that's just a growing platform of many more things that we can build around the tools you need for sleep fitness.
How do the sensors work with registering me on one side and my partner on another?
Yeah, that was actually one of the most complicated things that we had
Sure.
to develop. It took us a long time to get it to be accurate. So it's something we've been working a lot with our scientific board. So we're running a comparative study with Mount Sinai, comparing it to polysomnographs at a sleep clinic, gathering truth data for further training. Like it's pretty, that's the gist of the value of the company, right?
I want to come work at your
You should visit. We have a whole sleep lab.
Oh,
we
man.
gather truth data with all health grade devices compared to ours. It's pretty
That's
amazing.
awesome. Sleep scientist.
So we had to build it. I don't know if you probably have heard of Podit. Was acquired by Apple some years ago, right? So they were doing something like that for. You would have to have separate sensors. So you have to buy one for each side of the bed. So what we did is we actually have an entire strip. And so it was a little bit more complicated. But we were very focused on the right experience. So we didn't want you to have two boxes, to have two sensors. When you look at our product, it just looks like a mattress. But it's embedded with all these things inside.
And you mentioned integrations. Is this something you can integrate with Apple Health and existing products?
You can, yeah. So it integrates with Apple Health. We can read your fitness data if you want. You can share your sleep data to your Health or Google Fit. And then it's an IoT platform. So you can actually connect it to anything else in your home. So like your Nest thermostat. So you could say, well, when my room drops to a certain temperature, change the temperature in my pod to this other level and things like that.
What I really loved about what you're building, the product, of course, fascinating and is something I follow quite closely, but also this, very modern millennial brand that is leveraging brick and mortar retail. And it, I would imagine it's sort of that 360 brand exposure play, and also because you need people to try this product. Like you can't just sort of rely on like 360 tours on your web browser. Like you need people to come in. What has that been like going from a digital first to, physical brick and mortar?
Yeah, we're still pretty small in brick and mortar, but we are focused on our two biggest markets, New York and San Francisco. And so there we opened our first showroom. We used to have a private showroom in our office, actually. We always had it since we started the company. People could book on our website. They can come visit. It was just starting to become a little bit disruptive.
Yep.
And obviously people would walk into the office and be like, what is this? And so we decided to do, in partnership with Showfields, which is a retail startup in New York City. They have a beautiful space in NoHo. So we opened our first space there. And one of the things that has been really successful is that it really lifts the conversions in the market. People that visit Showfields then, have a pretty good rate at converting, not only in the space, but then on our website. So it's part of the consideration funnel of a $2,500 product.
I would imagine that it's also like in 2020, the content opportunities are necessary.
Yeah.
Where you obviously have a lot of celebrities and influencer thought leaders driving the brand and exposure for a product like this. So, taking a picture and posting it on your social. To me
it legitimizes the brand a lot. It's similar to doing advertising on television or out of home. People suddenly think like you are much bigger than maybe you are. You're more renowned, and it's important as you're building that brand to find those opportunities that are still cost effective, but where you could put yourself out there in an environment where people think, oh wow, this is next to maybe Theragun that maybe has been out for a few more years, and people may know more, and suddenly it just elevates you a lot. So we did the same then in San Francisco with Beta, which is another great startup doing great things in retail, and hopefully it's a model that we can scale to other cities.
So your role at CMO, do you have a CEO currently running the business?
Yeah, so I'm the head of brand. So we brought someone on board who heads our growth. And so we don't have a CMO. And so together with Ori Klein, who joined us about a year ago, we work together. He leads growth, so everything paid and media, and then I can focus on the brand. And then Matteo is our CEO. He has been always our CEO.
What's husband-wife team like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great advantage.
Yeah.
we had done a few projects before ate sleep together, so
Okay.
we really kind of learned how to work together then. We've been together now for 10 years,
It's
so
like
it's been
sleep.
such a long time.
It requires a lot of training and discipline.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
you learn, right? You need to go through it. You need to figure out if it makes sense for you as a couple. But for us, it's a huge advantage because it's just never any guilt. We understand what we're going through. We can work 24/7 if we want, but we can also take time off. Like it's just a great kind of organic support system that we have, and we're both really passionate about what we do. So, you may be on vacation, but we may also just spontaneously go into a conversation around the company whenever we want.
Was there a natural path for your roles? Did you always sort of trend more towards marketing, branding, him more operations?
Yeah. So when we started, Matteo and Massimo, who's our CTO, so they were the ones that kind of came up with the idea of the product. So Max comes from the world of big data. He sold a couple companies before in the space. He had just sold his previous company to a gaming analytics company in the Bay Area. And so when Matteo told Max about his own sleep problems, they started brainstorming about what technology could do to fix them. So they came up with the idea first. And within like a couple months from that idea moment at a bar in New York City, Max had built a prototype in his home in San Francisco. And they showed it to some friends, and a friend of theirs who was working at Amazon at the time. So very Silicon Valley style, these people that maybe are executives, VPs, are making good enough money, said, I'll give you something like $20,000, $25,000 check. I think you guys are onto something. If someone else gives you money, cash my check. If not, forget it. And so he became our first investor, because from that, both Matteo and Max being entrepreneurs, they were like, oh, this seems like it could be a great idea. Matteo had just sold his previous company then. So they were both at like that exact great timing to take this to the next level. And then because my background was always in like PR and brand, and they said, well, join us. Like, we need someone to take this product to market. I had never done this in my life. I mean, Ate Sleep is the longest held job I've ever had. So it was really me jumping from where I was working at a fintech company in New York City and saying, well, I'm going to do this, one, because I really believe in the mission. I think what we're going to be able to achieve is going to be really impactful, using sleep technology to improve sleep, but also sleep as a health platform.
Right.
And then second, just the team. Like, I love the guys. I would start a company with them anytime again, and just trusting that we were getting into it, not knowing what we were doing, but that we were going to figure it out together.
So you're the in-house influencer, as I like to call it.
I don't think so.
Well, every business needs one in 2020, and my CEO, my business partner, who's next door, right? He should be next door. He's handling all the crazy operations and the stuff that requires you to be like so stoic and patient that I couldn't do anymore. And I think for me, it was when I think we crossed like 100 employees, and I was just like, no, I can't. I'm willing to accept that I'm not the best manager. I'm a great coach. I love helping. You want to role play before a client meeting, anything like that, great. But just don't put me on Trello boards and Slacks. Like, I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be like, I want to play in the future. I want to play in the vision. Yeah. And it was difficult at first, because it was, stepping down of a role in your own company where people are going to be sort of confused and not understand it. And I went through that introspection and then realized, like, holy shit, like, they don't tell you in business school being CEO sometimes sucks and very challenging, where I'm the cool coach versus being the manager that everybody has to report to.
Aren't you just so much happier?
Yes. I found, like, it took me, my dad taught me everything in business, but he ran, a small brick and mortar retail business with, 7 employees. So he taught me everything about sales and, customer service, but he never scaled a company, a high growth company. So where was I going to learn this stuff? Where was I going to learn that, this isn't the right role for you, this is the right role? Or it's okay to bring in somebody else, or it's okay to have business partners. He never even had business partners. Yeah. He always taught me, like, no, you don't want business partners. And it's impossible to do. I'm in the business of human capital, so our product is managing people. So when I stepped down as CEO around 2018, and that's that's kind of afforded me all these opportunities to like go do podcasts. Like I have a VP of sales who's like, we need Ben doing more podcasts, doing more stuff he wants. Like we'd throw these really cool plated dinners, like 25, 30 person, you know, in New York, we did the Zaha Hadid building, and in LA, we do them in cool rooftops. So like that's my thing is like I love the curating experiences, doing content, coaching, supporting, and I'm having fun. You know, it doesn't feel like work. So when you know, I think everyone should be hiring an executive coach. You know, at this type of level. You know, you've raised significant funding. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and it's great to learn from mistakes, but it's cooler if you could learn from other people's mistakes and have that, you know, built-in peer network, mentor network. So, you know, that's something that I always love sort of dissecting because we work with so many different founders. Even the most seasoned entrepreneurs are almost always placed in the wrong roles when they're starting a business. You know, there's ego. I want to be CEO. So I'm able to now have that sort of relatable conversation. Like, you really want to be CEO? Like,
but
you know what that means?
Ego is the biggest thing. I agree with you. Because I went exactly through that when we started the company. Obviously, you're like a handful of people and you're like, yeah, I'll be CMO. But I always had the conversation with my co-founders that I didn't want to be in that role eventually.
Yeah. You did.
I did. I told them that is not, I do not want to be CMO of this company. Right. That is not, because when I started understanding what that would entail, right? I don't know, maybe I was 24 when we started the company. I was, wait a second, like this is tapping and it's going to require from me to really push myself beyond the things that maybe I enjoy the most and that are my strengths. So do I want to go there and try to build those skills, or do I feel like I can contribute to the company by doubling down on my strengths, right? And I think I was always very honest with them about that. And when we hired Ori, and it was a year ago really that he started with us, it was the biggest blessing. And it was a year journey to hiring an executive, right? Sure. To take over basically half of my job and say, okay, now you're going to do this half that I don't think I'm the strongest at, that is not the part that I enjoy. And as a consequence, probably I'm not doing as well as someone else could do. And it was this very humbling process. It was something I asked for, which a lot of my friends, a lot of people ask me, is like, oh, how was that? Wasn't that weird to kind of step down? And I was like, no, actually it was, it's been, the last year has been the most amazing year for me at 8 Sleep. And I think what we have done with the brand by me focusing on it has paid off because I'm really tapping into what I enjoy and what I think I'm best at.
It's really interesting. And I think in some cases there's, you know, the fear sometimes when you're a smaller business, oh my God, I'm being replaced. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm losing control, blah, blah, blah. But then it happens and you realize how important that is. Like, you can't be a bottleneck. You can't be a single point of success or failure. And now it's, you know, sort of my dream in the future is like, I just want to, I want to play that Ray Dalio life. I want to be chairman. Like, I want to have CEOs. Like, I don't even want to be in that sort of executive management layer anymore.
I think the same. Because I live so closely with Matteo goes through as a CEO. Yeah. I say, like, I just never want to be CEO. Like, I just don't think that that's what I would enjoy. He enjoys it, and it goes to his strengths, right? But I think the same as you. It's just, you need to go through that process of understanding yourself, your strengths, the honesty, not having the ego to just want to have a role or a title because you think that that's what's important. It's just this entire, it's really, you need a coach, you need therapy, you need to have that introspection with yourself and like figure it out.
Politics, strategy, things. I was always decent at strategy, never good at politics, very, very direct. And I think that style was compatible with building a small lifestyle boutique company. Mm-hmm. But going after, 8-figure enterprise deals, I realized I don't know if my approach is the right one. And it was hard at first because, again, you're like, well, this goes against what I've been taught, or people are telling me it's a terrible idea. And I'm somebody that likes to get lots of counsel. Maybe I get too much counsel. So I get different information, different feedback from different people. personal coaches, professional coaches, mentors, whatever, and then I try to come up with my own conclusions. This was one where I was getting a lot of different feedback. Everybody's like, no, it's a terrible idea. Like, you need to stay in this role. Advisor, lawyers were like giving some other feedback and opinions. Ultimately, you have to put the business first.
Yes.
Who is the best person for this? Because it's a much bigger calling now than just your role and what your mission is. It's like you're supporting a bunch of people and their livelihood and their future.
That is so hard as a founder. I think it's actually rare, or maybe it's not as common as you would expect, to find founders that really genuinely and authentically will put the business before themselves.
Yeah.
And you really need to kind of think in a way. I always say, I hope that 8 Sleep doesn't need me. Like, I hope we're able to attract such amazing talent, and that we've built an organization where some years from now, the company doesn't need me, that it can function without me.
Well, you bring up a great point that I wrote down actually to discuss with you, because that is, to me, the dangers of personal branding. We're always getting screamed at from Gary Vee and all these people on social, like, you need to be creating a brand, you need to be leveraging that. What if you want to sell your company one day?
Yeah.
Probably going to get devalued because you're such an important, critical role for this company. You're the rainmaker, you're the brand face. Like, how does that even work? So I've been doing a lot of analysis at, like, how much value is there? Because for us, lead gen, business development, relationship, it's been huge. But I'm also, like, very cautious of how much I want to be using that. Because to me, it seems like, well, then I'm never going to be able to replace myself if I'm always the brand. So I don't know if that's something you've ever thought about or experienced.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of personal branding. Like, I obviously believe in brand big time. I think everything is a brand. It's about, having the message that you're portraying and the stories that you're telling and what people perceive and what they believe of you, right? So it's just kind of inherent to existing as a human.
Yeah.
In terms of associating your personal identity to a company, I think you need to be very cautious about it. And if anything, probably the most successful way of doing it is by not necessarily making the person equal the brand, but to using the person as a channel to tell the story of the company or share the mission of the company, but kind of trying to really distinct the person itself being the company. It's different. And I think there are a lot of brands that have been able to do that successfully. So if you would think about, like, the Kardashians, like, they are the brand. They are their brands, right? You cannot remove them. Those Kylie Cosmetics would not work without Kylie Jenner. Right. And it works for them. And they're probably the risk there is that they will always have to be associated. Otherwise, that brand is not going to work. But I think there are other companies that have been able to use their CEOs or their founders as a conduit to just tell the story, to evangelize about the mission without necessarily depending on them as a figure. Someone else could replace them and continue to tell that story.
So the personality humanizes the brand, but the brand shouldn't be the company. I completely agree, because Neil Patel, I think he's like one of the first internet marketers who really took advantage of that. And he's the one who was really vocal about, like, I sometimes wish I never did this because now I can't walk away from my company. Yeah. I'm Neil Patel Enterprises. So everybody, they don't want to hire my employees and my managers. They want me to be on site, telling them about SEO.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about Latin America. So my mom's family's from Uruguay. That's the connection that I have. I worked in the open source community starting since 2009 in Uruguay, Argentina. So I've been able to sort of witness the blossoming firsthand of just technology and open source movement down there. Have you tapped into that market at all?
Not much. I grew up in Tijuana. I moved to Monterrey for college, but then immediately after college, I moved to New York. So I've spent, like, my entire professional career here. I do a lot of work with Mexico because when we do sort of productions, photography, TV commercials, a lot of things like that, we've done in Mexico, and that's kind of the community that I tap into, because that's where my friends work. As I studied communications in school, we have our customer service team in Mexico, which obviously is they're amazing, and they're right in the border, and, like, we're able to kind of tap into that talent. but we haven't had the chance to really open, maybe more like technical roles, which I know from friends that are in the startup world in Mexico or in Latin that it's huge.
Huge.
There's
So
so much
I
talent.
actually taught a class at Monterey Tech where you went to school for it's like a couple-week program on augmented reality in 2011, and like I fell in love with Monterey. Obviously a lot of, there's been a lot of crime in the last 15, 20 years. Unfortunately, always the media captures the really negatives about a place. I find that just the nature, the people, really, really cool.
Yeah,
So
it's an amazing city.
I love it.
I moved to Monterrey when Tijuana was pretty dangerous, like 2007. And so it was kind of an escape initially. Monterrey was in a pretty good state. I had so much fun. And then towards my last years there, it started getting pretty dangerous. So, it's interesting to grow up, in those environments because you just, it shapes you. It shapes you to live in a place where maybe you cannot go out at night as you're, a teenager, you're 17, 18. You have to be more mindful. You have to, we would use Twitter to kind of understand where things were happening. It teaches you a lot. And I love Mexico. It's just such an amazing country. And I think there's so much good stuff happening. And like you said, sometimes the media is just so focused on what's the easy story, which is the violence. But I lived amazing years in Monterrey. It's such a hotbed for entrepreneurship. It's insane.
And there are a lot of creative agencies there. So I totally understand why you are leveraging those amazing contacts. So I recently also spent some time in like Querétaro. I was really impressed because that's sort of the new industrial boom since Mexico City's just run at, like no more space.
Oh my God, yeah.
That like I think that obviously a lot of Mexicans are very upset with Mexico City Airport being canceled for the new project. So there's infrastructure challenges that they're facing, which is forcing Querétaro, León, all these other cities to start sort of becoming more industrial.
Yeah.
Where's your favorite city in Mexico to explore?
I love Mexico City.
Yeah.
I am obsessed. Even when I was in Tijuana, I was never kind of a fan. I was always a fan of big cities.
Yeah.
And so even though Tijuana's big, it's like 2 million people or something like that. It's not the same sort of city as a style, right? So I always love Mexico City just as much as I love New York. I love Rome. I love Paris. I love these like big cities. So I'm a huge fan of Mexico City. I love all the area in the Yucatan Peninsula. We got married actually in Mérida, which was beautiful. I love going back to Tulum, Playa del Carmen. Just like
San
it's
Miguel?
just so nice. San Miguel is beautiful. Los Cabos is really pretty.
I went to bullfighting in Querétaro
really?
for the first time, and that was
Yeah.
pretty.
All the cities in the center, Querétaro, San Luis, they're all like Puebla. They're very colonial. There's a lot of history. Like you have the duality of like the colonial era and the Spanish kind of, all that kind of architecture. But then you also have the pyramids from all of the different groups and civilizations that lived in Mexico before the Spanish arrived. It's just this amazing, history there. It's just insane.
So I've been doing a lot of endurance training, some triathlon stuff for this year, and a lot of my friends, I didn't know this at the time, but a lot of my friends in Monterey they do a lot of mountain biking, triathlon, where we're going to be doing a group in Chipique.
Yep, and Chapinque up in the mountains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing like a tour there, probably like in spring. But it's, there's a lot of really interesting communities that...
There's a lot of nature right outside the city in Monterrey, which is what makes it so pretty.
Yeah, it's there's so much amazing culture and places to explore in Mexico.
So much good food too.
Amazing good food. So my sister actually lives in Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she's she's marketing and branding, and she works in medical tourism.
Okay.
So
that's huge.
That's a huge industry and boom for Americans, Canadians, and all that. So I get to spend time with her there, and then sort of kind of venture out to different places near Sayulita and all that. But Yeah, we need to be promoting more like tourism in Mexico because
Yeah.
it's just and it's not. People are just they've got wrong information because you see the Mexico City clickbait where there's horrible accidents and narcos doing horrible things, and casualties and innocent people do die, but most of the time they don't. They're very targeted attacks, very 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 targeted. So tourism for the most part, they're not really at risk because they're not targets. So you're at much greater risk of hanging out in a place like Texas and going to church where you have to worry about a mass shooting.
Yeah. I mean, I was for 17 years in Tijuana, which, when I was growing up in the 90s, if anything, there was a lot of that happening.
Yeah.
Never, knock on wood, nothing has ever happened to me or my family. It's just like you said, it's contained and it's targeted, and it exists for sure. We cannot ignore the fact that it's there, but if you are outside of that, for the most part, you're not impacted.
And what's interesting is, so I have a very good friend of mine who she lives in Juarez, and her family and friends, they all they're born in El Paso, and then they go back and forth a lot. Her family moved. Mexico is too dangerous. We're moving to El Paso. It's safe. We want to raise our family here. Blah blah blah. Then that mass shooting happens last year. They're like, we're moving back to Mexico. Like, we feel way more safe and we way more comfortable there. So we gotta like educate people on what it's really like, because I just think we're getting a very skewed reality now with just the way media works.
Yeah.
So what are goals for 2020?
Professional goals, company goals. I mean, growth is always one of them. Like you said, we've raised significant amounts of venture capital. We just announced a few months ago our 40 million round. So there's always that pressure. I think we're really lucky to have amazing investors who are in it for the long term. They really believe in what we're doing. So that's great. There's not like you don't need to grow at this completely outsized numbers.
Yep.
But yeah, you always need to continue to do that. And so a big goal for me is, how do we raise awareness about our mission and our products amongst our target audience? So staying very focused on who is the person that is consuming our products, who is benefiting from them when they're using them, and just raise awareness in that community. So a lot of initiatives on that side with brand, with partnerships with influencers, with athletes, to be able to deliver on that higher awareness.
Who are you doing, investor relations, or Mateo is?
No, Mateo does that.
Lucky.
Yeah.
That's like the one thing
I get to just
do, be product
help
team,
make the
brand.
board decks and
Fantastic.
the investor decks pretty and do the right storytelling. But
that's my biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
Is doing that, because we're completely bootstrapped. We're now at that point where we're kind of exploring what the future trajectory looks like, whether it's talking with various M&A people or bankers, just sort of seeing what's out there, especially to get to that next level of growth. Fortunately, I don't think it's going to be me who's going to be having to do that, that song and dance, because it's exhausting.
It is.
And it's a whole art in and of itself, because they always want to go out and hey, let's go out to the bars, and I'm like, I gotta focus on my sleep. That's my priority right now. I don't have time to be hanging out with investors. So
yeah,
that's
I think it's exhausting. Rejection is what makes it exhausting. Mateo and I talk a lot about the fact that burnout really exists or presents itself mostly when things aren't going the way that you expected, right? When you're on a roll, even though you may be working really long hours and working really hard, you don't feel the burnout.
Right.
But then suddenly when you're things aren't going the way you expected or you wanted them, issues, any sort of thing kind of gets in the way, then you suddenly feel oh man, I'm really burned out right now. I think it's the same with the investor relations. It's when you're getting the rejection, it just really drains you. And then when things are going well, you're oh, okay, you're excited. But it is delicate. I think it's part of what you were talking about, how no one teaches you. No one teaches you in school how do you raise money for a startup or a company at a certain scale. How do you manage investors? How do you negotiate? And
the different profiles in investing. There's
Yes.
institutionalized money. I would imagine you've developed a lot of contacts on the hedge fund, private equity, family office side of being in New York. So
Yeah, it's very different.
Everybody has their own motive incentive for investing, and that's international investors want something else totally different. So you got to go through just that trial and error.
Yeah. And also what you were describing before, which is you want to learn from others. So the peer-to-peer mentorship is really important. Matteo certainly is really strong at that, and it's something that I've tried to cultivate also in my own space, just having people that have been through it, that are a bit ahead or way ahead from where you are, and being able to tap into them and learn. When we were doing our first TV commercial, it's like, how do I deliver on this? Well, let me talk to other CMOs or heads of brands or media people that have done this and understand what made it successful. And it's a bit of that committee. And Ray Dalio talks a lot about that, right? It's like you have to learn from other people and then make your own decision out of others' opinions. I think it applies particularly for the role of the CEO, where they have the board to hold themselves accountable, but the board's not there with you day to day. So you need that mentorship to in order for it to really add value.
What is it like running a startup in New York? I'd imagine it's super expensive, super fun.
I mean, for sure. In New York, but probably San Francisco now is more expensive than New York, honestly. But it's fun. You have so many just different types of talent. Mm-hmm. I think that is one. It's people that come from different backgrounds, different industries. That is super valuable in our office. I don't even know how many languages we speak and how many places we're all from. It's just fun, and that's what's so cool about New York City, is so diverse. And I love being in New York. Yeah. We were in San Francisco for the first year of the company, actually.
Got it.
So we went through the whole startup thing. We did YC after getting rejected twice and then finally getting in. And it was after Y Combinator that we said, well, let's move back. We love New York. It's just, if that's where we're going to be for the next 10 years, let's be in a place where when we're not working, we can really enjoy and have fun and do what we want to do, because you don't want to be just working and then be unhappy the other 20% of your life.
And do you got your escape in the Hamptons or Hudson Valley?
No, I'm not there yet.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
like 8 hours of sleep. You've got
and then
the
you
goal.
Can go there. Exactly.
Which one would you choose?
I mean, I think probably the Hamptons. Okay. I like it. It's nice. It's quiet. But you still have like some of the New York restaurants, like San Ambrose. Like, it's just like interesting. Sometimes you get so spoiled in Manhattan and like you go to your places and, it's nice to be able to have that over there. No,
I agree. Although there's really cool like scene in Cold Spring and Hudson Valley, and it's, very hip bohemian, but it always amazes me. It's only like 2 hours away from Manhattan, and you're literally in a different city. So I'm probably relocating to New York in April. I'm very excited about that.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's scary too, because I'm a California, LA guy, and I'm like, okay, well, winter's there. Like, we're gonna figure it out. Yeah. And luckily I got South America, so I can kind of do that for, sort of trade off.
That is the key. You cannot spend just all the time in New York.
Yeah.
You need to get out. It is a very draining city. There's just so much going on that you need to be able to go somewhere, even if it's for work, but just like getting out of that environment a little bit. And then every time I'm back, I'm like, I did miss New York. I'm so glad I'm back, but I enjoy the days that I get to spend out of there.
It's just an amazing, it's very, very, very high energy.
Yes.
Like I can probably, so I'm not a real bicoastal, I'm a fake one, but I've done the back and forth for, I don't know, like 6 years. But you can't really experience New York unless you live there.
Yeah.
So when I'm there, I can do like 7 meetings in a day.
Right? It just kind of drives you that way.
LA, like, hey, come out, let's go for lunch. Beverly Hills, 2 hours.
No one probably wants to have a meeting here at 5 p.m.
No way. This office, the thing about our company is this office is up insanely early because most of the people are working with Uruguay, and it's 5 hours ahead, and daylight savings is 4. So people are up very early. Like everyone here is definitely up by moving by 7:30. Oh, wow. And they're coming in the office around 8:15, 8:30. Yeah. So okay,
that's early. Yeah.
Yeah, that's early for an office. But by 5,
they're
done.
That's the difference in New York. People are done by 7.
Yeah.
People done by 7. Between 6 and 7.
And people like to chill at home a lot in California because we have so much space.
In New York, no, people go out.
I had a 1-bedroom in Chelsea, and I was like, okay, I get this now. Like you don't want to stay home.
Drives you crazy.
Claustrophobic.
You also kind of feel like you're missing out in
Yeah.
New York. There's so much happening outside that you just don't want to stay home. You want to go out. You want to check out the new museum, the new pop-up store, the new this, the new that, the new restaurant. And so you're out all the time.
What are some of your favorite places to go in New York? For me to add to my long bear list, my note.
I mean, to be honest, I just work all the time and sleep. So I'm not the most fun person. But we have like our little routine on the weekends where we'll just, maybe we'll take a Bears boot camp class and we'll go to San Ambrose and Soho, which we love because we know all the the staff there, which are amazing. We've been going there for so many years. Restaurants. I mean, there's so many good. There's an amazing Mexican restaurant in Long Island City, which is worth the trip.
Interesting.
Called Casa Enrique. Highly recommended. I just discovered it last year. It's been there for a while. Really, really good. We love going to Chelsea Market just to buy food. Yep. There's a great fish market there that now it's becoming smaller and smaller for fish market, and they're just like doing like sushi sushi bars, so it's a little sad. There's a great fish market up on like Hell's Kitchen on like 41st Street. So we're more like buying food, cooking. Yeah. We enjoy that. That's how we relax. So we're the strange New Yorkers that actually use our kitchen. That's but then great. In the summer, I mean, Central Park's beautiful. Biking around there, biking the West Side Highway is beautiful. Playing tennis, there's amazing public tennis courts. That's what's fantastic about the cities. Like you can find a way to do the things that you like because there's always an opportunity for it. If you like museums, you like art, I like ballet. So going to experience all those things.
That's probably what I'm most excited about is so many languages, so much diversity, so many different cultures. We get a little bit of that here. But everybody's kind of American transplants. There's a lot of people.
Or Mexicans.
I
always feel like I'm back in Tijuana when I'm here.
I would say, but there are communities. Like there is like a little Armenia, a little Ethiopia. There's like little tiny pockets.
Koreatown.
But they all sort of just congregate in their patch. Everybody's just kind of running wild in New York City. That's super exciting to me. That I don't have in LA. So we'll find out.
You'll have fun.
I will definitely have fun. And probably, burn out for a couple years in New York, move back to California.
Yeah.
That's the plan. So tell us about products or new launches that you can talk about. We're going to be posting a link, on our page. So I would love to just give more information to the audience of where they can follow you, follow the brand, and just get more information on some of the new product launches. Yeah.
So we're working on a new product that will launch later this year, a few months away. So team is hard at work on that. A lot of excitement. Cool. We really learn from our members who use our products. And so it's like that close feedback loop of what do you want to see next? What could improve your sleep? That's what drives us. And so we're always thinking, how can we use technology to improve sleep? So definitely expect some new updates there. The pod is our signature product, is our best seller. So that's the product the product line will continue to evolve. There's a lot of launches on the digital side. So the pod is accompanied by the mobile application. In the app, because of the data that we're gathering, there's a platform that we're building around it. And it's all of that benefits going back to the end user. So how do we use that data to give you the right tools?
The predictive learning stuff you're talking about. Yeah,
exactly. So we can actually surface if you have issues to fall asleep. We have now a library of content in our app where you can do a stretching video, do meditation, do breathing exercises, listen to relaxing sounds or white noise, all in the 8 Sleep app without you having to go anywhere else. And we can recommend you what you need because we know what type of sleeper you are, the issues you may be having. So there's a lot of evolution that we're doing there.
Can you buy the pod in the app?
You cannot yet. Okay. I think that's one of the things we've been hearing from our members is they want to get more recommendations and products that they could purchase. So it's something we want to add as part of that member experience. But the app is closed to members only now.
Oh, got it.
So only if you have the pod, you activate, and then you get access to everything that's happening in the 8 Sleep app.
Cool. So there you have it. You gotta get a pod if you want to get on the app.
I mean, if you want to sleep well, I can tell you there's no better product. It's the data that we're seeing on sleep improvement, how much faster people fall asleep, how much less the toss and turns, sleep interruptions. It's insane.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to explore. Not entirely satisfied with my current setup, my chili pad, so I might have to look into 8 Sleep.
Yeah.
thanks so much for coming on today, Alexandra. This was really fun and special because it's something I love geeking out on. So congratulations on all the hard work and success. Hope you had a very good, productive week in LA shooting
Thank
some
you.
content.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be on that 8-hour sleep cycle soon.
Thank you so much. When you're in New York, you must have a pod in your new place. So just let us know.
I will definitely come check it out. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks.